I did something similar before. Welcome back, everyone. It is May 10th, 2026. And before I go back into my story, I want to define one of the two of my biggest issues. The first issue was neglect. There are particular things that neglect teaches a child. Though I was slapped a few times, I wasn't really physically abused. That was especially true for the time period I grew up in. My mother was adamant about that. She was physically abused herself. However, I was very neglected physically, supervisory, and emotionally. I was really left at times to fend for myself. I specifically have a memory at 5 years old and being hungry. I was outside of our cheap motel, barefoot, digging around the dirt and weeds for money to buy candy to eat. I discovered a nickel in the grass, and on my own, I walked to a store across the parking lot and asked how much I could buy for the nickel. There was penny candy at that time. I bought 5 pieces of banana taffy. I was not hungry anymore. My depressed mother was inside the motel room in bed still, breastfeeding my sister, who was about 2. It is still profound to me today. I discovered elements of neglect through some readings that helped define my personality as I got older. At the time I left home and in my early 20s, I did not have the vocabulary or ability to express the feelings in therapy. I struggled even in early recovery, the first one being unworthy of love. I knew at 5 our family was different. In my mind, we were less than others. We did not have a house, food, or things others had. It followed through childhood, where my brain figured there must be something wrong with me or us. I sang and performed in front of small groups when I was a young child. It was sporadic, but I got a little attention and it gave me the confidence to put myself out there. By 15, I lost a lot of confidence through puberty and developed stage fright around singing. I could still sing in choirs or be in plays, but no solo singing. I thought singing would save me, but there was so much change and crisis. My world did not settle into anything I could use. I turned from it like a lover that spurned me. Standing in front of people and being accepted, though, gave me another perspective of who I was. The second element, the inability to trust emotions. I only expressed emotions a few times, and the reactions people gave me embarrassed me. The feelings themselves were overwhelming, so I shoved my emotions down and watched other people for what they shared. I did that often mimic behavior I saw others do as normal. I envied people who seemed not to have emotions. I got used to not sharing much about myself. I didn't think people were that interested beyond the singing, which was over by puberty anyway, that special part of me. Number 3 is hyper independence, that has been a saving grace and a destructive tendency my whole life. I did not trust people and had to take care of myself on my own. Left home early, lived much of my life on my own, even with roommates and partners. The only issue with this, because I like parts of it, is that it is hard to include a partner or others. I have gotten better as I got older, but still trusting and letting someone help is hard. Moving and traveling to new places was also a bit exciting. Maybe things would be different. I could be different, reinvent myself, I would tell myself. As I aged, a pecking order was starting to show up in school. I was judged, always the new kid, the odd kid. So kids my age, awkward. However, from about 10 years old on, the friendly part of me was able to operate in the adult world. Adults seemed accepting, even impressed at times at my boldness. I read them and could take care of myself enough. The world was different, though, at that time, safer. There was more civility. I don't think I felt afraid of adults generally. The independence was also exhausting, doing so much on my own. It was the supervisory neglect that caused problems in high school by partying and skipping school. My decisions were immature and self destructive. I was one of the children put outside in the morning and expected to fend for themselves. The last element is the one that caused the most damage, struggling to know who I was. When you go through a lot of change, the foundation for self esteem is not there. Couple that with a lack of family of any kind, and what looks like a small girl is a girl who doesn't know who she is on some fundamental levels. So, on to my journey. At 17, I knew if I didn't get out, I would never have a chance. I would end up with a guy that made babies but didn't like me, trapped in the world my mother lived in. So I got out. All the trying I had done by running away never worked. Finally, this visit to the weekly welfare office accomplished it in one day. I got out. Back to leaving home, I went for a physical through the welfare system for an assessment. I discovered my growth was stunted from malnutrition. I lived at home the longest of all my mother's children, 17 years. I was subjected to poverty the longest, and it had taken its toll. At 17, the doctor told me I had a loss of about 3 or 4 inches. I was between 5 feet and 5 feet 1 inch. So, there were even physical consequences for my experience. The final sibling that left my mother's care grew almost a foot in 1 year and more than 60 pounds. When they took him away 6 years after I left home, he was 15, 4 feet 10 inches, and 75 pounds. Now I am doing this from memory, so the exact measurements may be a little off. The social worker called it psychological dwarfism. He just would not grow, and so the first year for him was dramatic. The state called me to testify against my mother, so they could form a case against her. They had heard my story. Once my mother found out I was coming, she gave up and let the state take him. I was in Portland for 19 years, an unprecedented time.